You've probably heard stories about ancient gods and monsters. But, you know, some legends are bigger, louder, and way more hairy than others. On one side, we have King Kong. He's not just some oversized ape, he's the last of his kind. A true king, ruling over a lost world called Skull Island. Imagine a creature as tall as a skyscraper, with fists that can shatter mountains, and a roar that makes volcanoes nervous. He's not evil, not really. He's a guardian, a protector of the balance. But when you're that big and that powerful, trouble has a way of finding you, even when you're just trying to mind your own business and eat some giant bananas. He is the eighth wonder of the world, a force of nature with a surprisingly gentle heart, unless you threaten those he cares about. On the other side of this epic throwdown is a creature straight from your worst nightmares. We'll call him Minoceros, the one-horned titan. This wasn't one of the original titans that my friends and I had to deal with. No, this was something older, something forged in the darkest pits of Tartarus. Minoceros was a beast of pure rage. His hide was tougher than celestial bronze, and his muscles were like twisted cables of divine steel. His single spiraling horn, located right in the middle of his forehead, glowed with a sickly purple light. It was said that this horn could absorb any energy thrown at it and fire it back 10 times stronger. He didn't have a kingdom to protect, he only wanted to destroy, to bring chaos to the orderly world the gods had built. So, how do these two titans of terror end up in the same ring? Well, it all started with a bit of godly mischief, as things often do. Ares, the god of war, was getting bored. Peace is great for mortals, but for a war god, it's like an endless rainy day with no Wi-Fi. He wanted to see a real fight, a battle for the ages. So he made a little trip down to the underworld, and whispered a few words into the ear of the sleeping Minoceros. He told the Titan that a new king, a furry pretender, was hailed as the most powerful creature on Earth. Ares knew that Minoceros's pride couldn't handle that kind of insult. A challenge was all but guaranteed. Minoceros awoke with a fury that shook the foundations of the underworld. He clawed his way to the surface, his mind set on one thing: finding and destroying this King Kong. He didn't care about balance or nature, he was a weapon of mass destruction, and Ares had just pulled the pin. The Titan's emergence caused earthquakes and tidal waves across the mortal world. Meanwhile, on Skull Island, Kong felt this disturbance. It was a tremor in the fabric of his world, a challenge to his rule. He didn't know what was coming, but he knew it was big, and he knew he was the only one who could face it. The stage was set for a clash that would make the Titanomachy look like a minor squabble. The battle couldn't just happen anywhere. A fight this big needed a special arena. Ares, ever the showman, declared that the two titans would meet on a neutral ground, a deserted plateau just below the peak of Mount Olympus itself. This was a big deal. Olympus was the home of the gods, a place usually off-limits to, well, everyone. But Ares convinced Zeus that this would be the ultimate entertainment. The gods could watch from their golden balconies, placing bets and munching on ambrosia. The setting was breathtaking, with swirling clouds below and the shimmering palaces of the gods above. The air crackled with divine energy, making the very rocks hum with power. King Kong was brought to the arena not by force, but by a plea. Hermes, the messenger god, flew down to Skull Island. He explained the situation, telling Kong that this new titan threatened not just his island, but the entire world, both mortal and divine. Kong, understanding the weight of the threat, agreed. He wasn't a pawn for the gods. He was a king accepting a challenge to protect his realm, which he now understood was the whole planet. He arrived on Olympus with a quiet dignity, his massive form casting a long shadow over the celestial ground. He surveyed the arena, his intelligent eyes taking in every detail, preparing for the fight of his life. Minoceros's arrival was the complete opposite. He didn't walk. He stomped. He didn't breathe. He snarled. He burst onto the plateau like a living earthquake, his single eye burning with hatred. He roared a challenge that was pure, unfiltered rage, a sound that made some of the minor gods faint. His horn pulsed with that awful purple energy, already absorbing the ambient magic of Olympus. He saw Kong standing there, calm and ready, and it only fueled his fury. To Manosaurus, Kong's composure was a sign of arrogance. He pawed at the ground, tearing up huge chunks of Olympian rock, eager to charge and impale his rival on his glowing horn. From their perch high above, the gods watched with mixed feelings. Zeus sat on his throne, looking stern and thoughtful, probably wondering if he'd made a mistake letting Ares arrange this. Hera looked disapproving, as usual. Apollo and Artemis had their bows ready, just in case things got out of hand. And Ares? He was loving it. He was on the edge of his seat, shouting encouragement at both of them, like a fan at the world's most dangerous sporting event. Down in the mortal world, people felt the tension. The skies grew dark. Strange lights appeared, and every oracle and prophet was having a meltdown. Everyone, mortal and god, held their breath. The fight was about to begin. The battle began not with a roar, but with a terrifying silence. For a moment, the two giants just stared at each other, sizing up their opponent. Then, Manosaurus charged. He was like a runaway freight train made of muscle and hate, his horn aimed straight for Kong's heart. But Kong was surprisingly agile for his size. He sidestepped the charge at the last second, grabbing onto the Titan's side. He tried to wrestle the beast to the ground, his powerful arms straining. It was like trying to wrestle a mountain. Manosaurus thrashed wildly, bucking and kicking, trying to shake the great ape off his back. The first phase of the fight was a brutal display of raw strength. Kong landed thunderous punches on the Titan's back, but it was like hitting solid granite. Manosaurus, in turn, swung his massive head, trying to gore Kong with his horn. He managed to scrape Kong's side, and the wound sizzled with dark energy, causing the Ape King to roar in pain. Realizing he couldn't win with brute force alone, Kong changed his tactics. He used his intelligence, his experience as a king of a dangerous land. He leaped away, grabbing a massive chunk of the Olympian plateau and hurling it at Manosaurus. The rock shattered against the Titan's chest, barely making him flinch. This is when Manosaurus revealed his deadliest trick. His horn began to glow brighter, sucking in the energy from Kong's missed attack and the magic in the air. He then unleashed a concentrated beam of pure, destructive purple energy. The blast was incredibly fast and powerful. Kong, showing amazing reflexes, leaped towards one of the massive marble columns that bordered the arena. He swung around it just like he would a vine back on his island, narrowly dodging the beam. The energy blast hit the column instead, and the ancient structure vaporized into sparkling dust. The gods on their balconies gasped. This was power on a level that could threaten even them. Now the real teamwork began, and it came from an unexpected place. Watching from above, Hephaestus, the god of the forge, saw that Kong's fists couldn't damage the Titan's hide. On an impulse, he took two of his own celestial bronze gauntlets, massive, glowing metal gloves, and threw them down into the arena. They magically resized to fit Kong's giant hands. Kong looked down at the gauntlets, then up towards the gods with a look of understanding. He slammed his new metal fists together, creating a shockwave of sound and golden light. Now, he wasn't just a king. He was a champion, armed by the gods themselves. The fight had just been evened. Armed with the celestial bronze gauntlets, Kong charged back into the fray. The tables had turned. Every punch he landed now echoed like a thunderclap, leaving glowing, spiderweb cracks on Manosaurus's seemingly impenetrable hide. The Titan roared in frustration and pain, a sound he hadn't made in millennia. He became more desperate, firing his energy beams wildly. But Kong was smarter. He didn't just charge in. He dodged and weaved, using the terrain to his advantage, forcing the Titan to waste his energy. He was fighting not just with strength, but with his mind, the mind of a king. He was proving that power isn't just about destruction, it's about strategy and will. The final moment was a spectacle of epic proportions. Manosaurus, wounded and enraged, put all his remaining power into his horn for one final, world-shattering blast. The horn glowed so brightly it was like a dying star. Instead of running, Kong stood his ground. He raised his gauntleted fists and, as the beam shot towards him, he did something incredible. He clapped his hands together, catching the beam between his palms. The energy struggled against the divine metal, creating a blinding sphere of purple and gold light. With a final mighty roar, Kong pushed his hands forward, redirecting the Titan's own power right back at him. The blast hit Manakara square in the chest. There was a moment of absolute silence, and then the Titan began to crumble, but he didn't fall as flesh and bone. He dissolved into particles of light and shadow, his dark energy purified by the celestial bronze. His horn shattered into a million tiny, harmless crystals that rained down on the plateau like glittering snow. The Titan wasn't just defeated, he was unmade. His chaotic essence returned to the ether. As the dust settled, King Kong stood alone in the arena, breathing heavily. He dropped the gauntlets, which clanged on the stone, and let out a roar. But this wasn't a roar of anger. It was a roar of victory, of a king who had defended his world. The outcome changed everything. The gods looked down not with amusement but with respect. They had witnessed a mere beast fight with more courage and intelligence than many heroes. Zeus stood and gave a slow, deliberate nod, the highest praise from the king of the gods. Kong was offered a place of honor, but he refused. He was a king, and his place was with his kingdom. Hermes escorted him back to Skull Island, which was now under the official protection of Olympus. The world of gods and mortals learned a valuable lesson that day. True power comes not from rage or destruction, but from the will to protect. And sometimes the greatest hero doesn't carry a sword or a shield, but the heart of a king.